Welcome everyone, it's Glacier Guy. I'm rocking the Glacier as always. Doing a quick little studio update. We've been working on a few things and I got my new 3D printer in. I ordered a Anycubic Viper FDM printer, and the reason why I ordered it was to make some terrain. So I had a bunch of MDF terrain from Frontline Gaming, and they were okay. Like, they looked decent and they worked really well in the battle space, but they were hard to move models in and out of. And so then I looked at other MDF manufacturers, and they were also not cheap. And then I looked at GW terrain, which is plastic, and I noticed that if I wanted a whole table of really good city fight ruins and things like that, I was going to be spending almost $400, $500, $600 or more, and that was just for like one board of GW like urban terrain. Because I needed several different buildings, and there were some sets, and I was like, okay, if I get all these, I can make a really dense city. And so then I looked at the price of 3D printing, and I have a resin printer, but resin printers don't. Their resin is typically brittle. And I mean, there are other resins that are a little bit softer, but the resin I have at the time is typically more brittle. And so I looked at PLA at FDM printing, and and so I got that, and I think it was a little bit over $400 for 3 spools of FDM resin plus the printer itself. It showed up in only a few days, and and then I printed this off over the weekend. So this is 3 sections. You got lower, middle, and upper section. And so obviously you got your lower sections, your middle, and your upper. And I'm still in the middle of painting it. I just wanted to take a few minutes to record a video, but it's really light. And yes, you can see the layer lines, and the reason why you can see the layer lines on this one specifically is because there's different levels, there's different layer heights that you can use with the printer. And one of the typical layer heights that you'll see on like 3D printing websites where like they're trying to sell their model is they'll either not have a 3D printed version, they'll more than likely have a just a digital version of the file, or they'll print it at like a 0.1 layer height. But 0.1 layer height takes a really long time, so they recommend, a lot of manufacturers recommend a 0.25, and it looks pretty decent. So this is 0.25 on layer height, and it's called a 20% infill, which is why it's a little bit lighter, because it's not full of plastic, it's not full of PLA. And there's a whole bunch of different versions. I actually got this model, these 3 layers. I got these for free off a sample. It's, I believe, the guy that does the samples. I think his name's Marcus, and he's also on Terrain for Print. He didn't pay me to do any of this, but I liked this set so much that he had a full set with more buildings and more corners and stuff to kind of make the buildings, like you'll put another corner over here to make it look like an actual building was there, and whether you put a layer on top of it or not. And so that was, I think it was just under $16 with like a currency conversion. And I really like this building, and I like the ruins, and like, this is for scale. This just shows like we got a plague marine sitting on top, and so I think it looks pretty good. And right now I have another section of this building printing, and it's like this section over here. So it's really interesting. I know some people, like, you can run your printer all the time constantly, and it could, potentially damage the printer. I don't know. I'm not running it all that often. I run it for once a day so far. Of the last 4 days, I've ran it once a day. And the prints can last anywhere from about 12 hours. There's the estimate on the printing website. Not the website, on the printing software. It gives you like an estimate, which is funny because the printing software on my resin printer is very accurate with its estimate of how long it's going to take. But the estimate for the printer for this one is definitely not very close to like the actual like printing and everything. It's like if it estimates 8 hours, I'm gonna add another 3 hours on top of that, it's just a mental space of like where I want to see myself and things like that. So I'm gonna continue painting this one after I film the video. For this one, I gotta do the windows, and I have to finish up the tiles. I'm probably gonna do a red-white alternating pattern for the tiles to make it look kind of like a factory. And I've already done the gray for the inline grouting, and then I have to do a bunch of metallics for all the door frames and grates and things like that. But yeah, I think this is looks pretty nice. And from the outside, I added an oil wash, and I think on the tabletop, I'm probably shooting to have maybe this might be the tallest building, but I'm shooting for at least 3 or 4 more of these kind of ruined sections, and to go with all my other terrain. So that'll be nice. And yeah, let's kind of move on to what else I've been doing. In a and I'll try to throw the pictures up here. In a non-Warhammer hobby, I put up a couple solar screens on my house, and they're basically just a screen frame, and then this Suntech, I forget the manufacturer, it starts with a P, but it's called like Suntech 90, which is supposed to cut down 90% of UV rays and heat coming directly into the window, and you put it on the outside of the window so all the heat like hits the screen and doesn't go into the house. And I've heard from a lot of people that live in the desert area that I live in that it's like very helpful. It does help with heating, and like you still need to run your air conditioner when it's hot, super, super hot, but it does help with keeping the inside cooler longer. So I made some screens, and I've never done it before. I tried to hire a contractor to do it, but none of the contractors would reply to any of my emails. So aside from that, we've started on because the terrain is going to take a while to print, to get all the terrain printed and everything. So I figured I can paint the terrain pretty quickly, but I still have like things left over. So my plan was, after the terrain, was to do a combination where I'm painting my Sisters of Battle and my Nurgle at the same time. But before I do that, I wanted to build this little Nurgle defiler. He's not really little. So what I did is I took the defiler kit and I took the Chaos Land Raider kit, and I kind of bashed them together. So let's get him under the light. And so he's magnetized. Oh, he's kind of stuck on there. Boop. Yeah. And so, yeah, so he's looking pretty sweet. I have all the las cannons for the side mounts. They're all sitting on a little corks, little wine corks, so I can paint them all separately. And yeah, so we got a defiler. He's got his battle cannon. He's got his auto cannon, twin heavy flamer, and then he's got his crushing claws in the front. And I did glue the claws in place because they were kind of moving around a little bit. But also, if I don't want him to be a defiler, or I could just say, hey, my defiler's got the heavy bolters, or my defiler's got the las cannons. I can kind of choose how I want to have him kitted out, how I want him to play, or I can just use him as a Chaos Land Raider. That's like where the machine spirit's really angry. And so I think this is like really cool. And I get like in a tournament you would have to like really explain like, okay, I'm using him as a defiler, like. And maybe a TO might not like it, but I think it's going to look really cool from my perspective. And the whole reason why I did this is I don't like the defiler's like crab base. And I was a little annoyed that the defiler kit, although the defiler rules wise, he can have a bunch of different options. He can have like las cannons and heavy bolters and stuff like that. And I think he can take a missile launcher also, or no, he could take a Havoc missile launcher, which the kit does come with it, but the kit doesn't come with the las cannons or the heavy bolters options, which I thought was kind of lame. And so I just built this one from the parts I had, and so I think that's pretty neat. And yeah, so we got our little defiler here, and I'm gonna set him off to the side. Let's talk about these Plague Marines. So I've had these Plague Marines for multiple years. Let me see if I can zoom in real quick. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so I've had these Plague Marines. These ones are specifically from it was Dark Imperium set, the one where Primaris were first introduced, and Death Guard was really, really powerful at the same time too. And so I finally got around to painting them, and I will be painting them as Dusk Raiders. And so if you don't know who the Dusk Raiders are, they are what Death Guard were called before Mortarion was uncovered. And I have seen like a small handful of people that have painted their Death Guard as Dusk Raiders. I've seen more, like 30K, like I think they call them Black Shields, which are basically heretical chapters, but they remained loyalists, so like they're like Death Guard loyalists. So essentially it's going to be mostly a somber gray. That's why I went with black undercoat. It'll It'll be a somber gray, but the whole right arm and shoulder pauldrons will be like a corn red, and then everything else will have like green. But I'm gonna make sure that where all the nurgly bits are coming out, where all the horns and stuff, those are gonna mirror what a death guard, like a typical green death guard would look. Yeah, I think it's gonna look pretty neat. I didn't want to go with a traditional green. I just didn't want to do a traditional death guard green. I'm all a little bit fancy here, and so yeah, we got a whole bunch of different. And so this is just one squad, so I can do a test squad, and then I have a couple, 2 or 3 more. I got a couple more squads, but yeah. So the Defiler, he'll also be the same, dark gray, and ooh, that's a little bit closer picture. So he'll be the same dark gray as these guys, but obviously in the sections like in the front, like right here, this will be red, and then probably in the back this will be red also. And maybe the casings for the guns will also be red. And then, but you see a bunch of little tenderly fleshy bits. Those are going to be whatever color. Like I'll just look at different Nurgle stuff and see what colors I want to use, and throw some rust. And so the idea was like this machine spirit was like growing out of the Land Raider because he didn't honor the machine spirit. So that was like my idea. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just doing some printing, been doing some painting, working on some house projects, and yeah. So if you. I'm gonna keep this night and short, and hope you have a good one, and see you around. Oh, if you want to support the channel, feel free to like, subscribe, follow, and you can buy my book. There's a link in the description below. But if you really want to see what I'm doing most often, just check out my Instagram, because I tend to post pictures to Instagram because it's a lot easier to post pictures and reels to Instagram than it is to like make a YouTube video, edit it, and upload it. So aside from that, have a good one, and see you guys around.